Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Great American Story. As the weeks go by and we hear from more of you about how much you appreciate what John and I are doing, where you got a couple of history nerds just sitting around in an old log cabin.
Yep.
Well, it's a virtual log cabin.
It's sunny out today, which that's nice.
See, John actually can literally set the weather here, so I should look right. Oh, that is a beautiful.
Sunny day.
Is it a spring or more of a summer's day there, John?
I think we're a summer day. We don't have a fire in the fireplace today.
Hold
like we
on
normally
here.
do.
Let me look. Where's
No
the
fire.
fire? Where's the fire? Oh, look at this.
It's just embers.
Okay, we got to rework that.
Yeah, we'll.
I like the fire.
We'll have
It's
to light
cozy.
The fire. I know, right? Yeah.
Anyway, if this is your first time watching, we have a lot of fun. We talk history, some of the great stories that really made America the great nation it is today. And today we're going to be talking about one of, I think, John, our nation was cheated out of a man who very well could have been one of our top 10 presidents.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this. You actually think that James Garfield, our 20th president, his life obviously was cut short by an assassin, but you really believe that there was greatness ahead for this man.
I really do. And part of it, you know, it's interesting here. I'm just going to open up my phone. I was just asking my phone, who were, of all of our presidents, who were the ones that grew up in the most abject poverty of them all? And really only three names came up, one of which was Andrew Johnson, not Andrew Jackson, Johnson, born in a log cabin in North Carolina.
Yep.
The other, of course, Abraham Lincoln, born in a one-room log cabin in Kentucky. And then James Garfield. So much poverty he dealt with, and then the heartbreak of losing his father at the age of 2, and really having to be the man of the family and get out there and earn a living as a youngster.
Indeed, and they lived on acreage. They had to sell a lot of their acres just to survive. His mom really wanted him to have an education.
Right.
But you're right, abject poverty. I mean, he didn't have a pair of shoes until he was 4, I read. And there's a great quote from him. He said, he never wore poverty as like a badge.
Right.
You know, he was a humble guy, and you know, but there's a really cool quote. He said, even as a child, Garfield walked with his shoulders squared and his head thrown back. Quote, if I ever get through a course of study, I don't expect anyone will ask me what kind of coat I wore when studying, he wrote to his mother while attending a nearby school. And if they do, I shall not be ashamed to tell them it was a ragged one.
Yeah.
So, you know, he embraced his lot in life.
Sure.
You know? But you know, he certainly worked very, very hard to come out of that life. And
there's no reason you can't still be a self-made man or woman today.
Indeed.
But boy, that was an era where you believed that if you could pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, educate yourself, you could create a pretty good life. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, when he got into the education system, he was a huge success.
He was president of a university. I mean, this guy, and again, he started out, he was a canal worker.
Yep.
He worked on the Erie Canal, where he had a near-death experience.
Yeah, what was that one all about? What happened?
He fell in the water at night. He was working on the canal, fell in the water, and knew that there was no one to rescue him because everybody was asleep.
Okay.
And he found the rope that was hanging in the water, and you know, he says that you know, Providence only could have saved my life, he wrote years later. And then he said, Providence therefore thinks it's worth saving. So I found that really a poignant quote by him. But and then, you know, rose up an intellectual. You and I have talked about this, how he just loved books.
Yeah.
He loved books. He loved to read. He loved research. He loved knowledge.
And wait till you get to John's question here as we go into the break.
Indeed, yeah.
That will tell you this is a man who had a brain.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, he was smart. He was humble. He believed in the greatness of this country and in the greatness of every single American. Remember now, we're Reconstruction. We're
Yep.
coming out of the Civil War.
We're in the 1880s, right?
And-
Or 1880. Right?
Yes,
That's when,
yeah.
When this is.
So let's talk just a little bit more about him. The convention would have been amazing to attend, John.
Yeah.
So the contest here on the Republican side, remember now, we've lost Abraham Lincoln. The Republican Party is the party of Lincoln.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people thought it was going to be Ulysses S. Grant
A split party,
to
though.
win. Yes, a split party. So he went to the convention with the backing of the boss of the party, the boss of politics, the boss of Washington, a senator by the name of Roscoe Conkling.
Grant did.
Grant did.
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
And I think most people thought, oh, it's going to be Grant's to win. Certainly Ulysses S. Grant, I think, thought it was his to win.
Yeah.
James Garfield never went to that convention thinking he was going to win it.
That's right. No, I
Yeah.
mean, Garfield was there to nominate
John Sherman.
John Sherman,
Yep.
which was General Sherman's
Yes.
younger brother.
Right.
So he wasn't there to be nominated, but this convention turned into chaos.
Yeah.
Not the conventions of today.
No.
You know that
Right.
that are. This was a truly a brokered convention, in every sense of the word. 36 ballots
Can you imagine?
before they came up with a nominee, and Garfield
Right.
is this unwitting. Nominee. He had
right.
no idea that this was coming.
Let
but,
me find this quote here. I
yeah.
love this quote from him. He said, this honor, which, I mean, we're not trying to give too much away too early here.
Sure.
He does win the nomination.
Indeed.
But he says at the end of the convention, this honor comes to me unsought.
Mm-hmm.
I never had presidential fever, not even for a day,
Yeah.
when so many men at the time did.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, so
Yeah.
here's the story. Conkling is the power broker.
He is.
He gets up, he gives a speech, and the place is rocking. It's the nominating speech for Ulysses S. Grant. Still thought of as a great war hero, even though maybe his presidency, 2 terms already, hadn't been going that great. So, a quiet James Garfield stands up on a table. You know, if you're there in the press, you're
There's a
jotting
picture
your
of this,
notes
by the way.
down.
There's a famous picture of this.
Is that
There is, and
right?
we'll put it up. Yes.
Okay.
There is.
See, this is what's so great about the Great
Library
American
of Congress,
Story.
baby. Yep.
John can find this stuff. You are a master
Yeah.
at it, that's for sure. Anyway, here's what he said coming out of this raucous speech as the nominator for Ulysses S. Grant. When the emotion, now keep in mind, you can just visualize him standing on a table, waiting for people to quiet down. He says, when the emotions of this hour have subsided, we shall find below the storm and passion the calm level of public opinion by which the thoughts of a mighty people are to be measured. He's already saying, hold on. We may be all jazzed up in this convention, but we have to appeal to millions of voters.
That's right.
In the daily lives that they live. He said, but this will not be settled by the 15,000 of us, but by the 4 millions of Republican firesides where the thoughtful voters with their wives and children about them, with the calm thoughts inspired by love of home and country and the history of the past, he says, the reverence for the great men who have adorned and blessed our nation, there is where the verdict will be.
Yeah.
And I think the crowd, they were eating out of the palm of his hand, Johnny.
What an orator! I mean,
Yes.
what a gifted
Yeah.
speaker, and
Yeah.
that certainly followed him into his presidency as well.
So the campaign they were all different way back then.
Yep.
And I just happened to, so I got my own YouTube channel,
Yeah.
Ron Hoon
There
History.
you go,
Come
man.
and check it out.
Yeah.
I meander through little moments in history. And one day I found myself in Mentor, Ohio.
Oh.
I want to play you a clip of what it's like. He campaigned from the front porch of his house, and guess what, John? You can still walk right onto that front porch. You can still walk into his library, into the home like he left it 5 minutes ago. Here's a clip of that so you guys at home as you're watching can get a feel for what life is like at Garfield's home. Underneath this weeping beech tree is a bench where you could normally sit, spend a little bit of time, but it's been raining today. And think about the man who used to call this home, President James Garfield. It's in Mentor, Ohio, and he was elected our president the 1880 presidential election. Now, let me just show you, if you can believe this, right door to where I'm standing, this little building right here was his campaign office in that presidential election of 1880. That's where it was all set up. Just a humble little building. And James Garfield was only given a few months to serve in office before he was killed by an assassin's bullet. He actually lingered for nearly 3 months, but medical care at the time was just not good enough to save his life. Garfield bought this farm, and by the way, it's really beautiful here, of about 150 acres in Mentor, Ohio, when he was a congressman. And he wanted his boys to learn how to grow up as farmers and work the land. And this place, after he died, his wife, Lucretia, was urged, don't go back. It just has too many memories, this house. Well, she did the opposite. Wanted to have those memories. And so she actually doubled the size of the house and made it much larger. Here's the front porch. Let me just zoom in. In fact, I think we can probably walk right up onto the porch. Imagine him standing here at a crowd gathering of several hundred people as he would give his campaign speeches. Yeah, that's exactly the way it would happen. And I mean, we're talking about, in the end, thousands of people came out here. They had to run special trains, especially because people in this part of northeastern Ohio were so proud to have a local guy running for president. They said by the end of that summer and fall, about 17,000 people had traveled here for what was known as the front porch camp, as it says right here. And that's what the house looked like. By the way, you can tell it was smaller because Lucretia added on. So it is a great place to spend some time. History question, John. What do you got?
For sure. James Garfield was known for his remarkable memory and intellect. Which of the following is a famous and true anecdote about his intellectual prowess? Writing out all of the books of the Bible from memory in Latin, being the only president to write with both hands simultaneously, or translating Shakespeare into 5 different languages?
The answer right after the break.
Welcome back to The Great American Story. Ron, we are starting something new this week. It's called Countdown 250. Mm-hmm. So we're less than a year out from America's 250th birthday.
How about that?
I was going to say anniversary, but
yep.
So we want to send you guys to the YouTube poll question. We're going to have a poll question there every week. So here's the address. I'm going to pop that up, and we're going to have a question about what you think are the most important stories in American history that we should be doing on this show. And we're gonna do a little countdown. We're gonna narrow it down to probably about 10, and we're gonna do those episodes leading up to the 250th birthday of America.
Great. It's such a great idea, John.
We want to have our viewers engaged and part of this process. So
if you enjoy the show now, you literally can help to direct it.
For sure.
How about that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to our trivia question.
Yeah, for sure.
Johnny.
Well, yes, James Garfield was known for his remarkable memory and intellect. Okay. Which of the following is a famous and true anecdote about his intellectual prowess? Ron?
Yes.
What do you think?
Okay, so all 3 of those seem very plausible to me. Although it does seem superhuman about writing out all the books of the Bible from memory in Latin. I mean, you'd miss a few verses.
I imagine.
You'd be about halfway through Matthew, and you'd be like, so in chapter 7, verse 20. Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to get through Genesis 1. So, yeah, that does seem superhuman.
Okay,
sure.
but these other 2, I could see both of those happen. Being the only president to write with both hands. same time, translating Shakespeare into 5 different languages. I think he spoke at least 5 languages, so I'm going to go with that one.
Yep, actually, it is B. It is writing with both hands simultaneously, left and right. Believe it or not, yeah.
I wonder if he was a piano player, because that would give you the skill to.
Word was that it was Latin in one hand and Greek in the other, which.
Amazing.
Yeah, right.
Well, here's a guy who, when he was teaching at the college level, he at least one time taught a class in 2 different languages.
Oh. Wow.
Just to keep the students on their toes. So, yeah, again,
Great.
intellectual, but a humble guy with his heart in the right place.
Yeah, so he's president.
Yep.
Okay, so he's president for about 200 days.
Yeah.
And then an assassin's bullet at a train station. Rips through his back. Anything you want to lead up to that before we dive into the...
No,
anything about his
about the actual campaign?
His
I
presidency.
did think it was quite entertaining, to say the least, that Rutherford B. Hayes, who was the president, controversially, a lot of people thought since he didn't win the popular vote, he shouldn't have been the president. But he actually, let me get his quote right here. He told Garfield, he said, "Here's my advice for how you are going to run your campaign. Just sit on the porch and don't just look wise."
Yeah.
And so that's exactly the way he acted. You know, I mean, he did more than that. Any day somebody came out to the house and they wanted a speech, he gave them a speech. Yeah. But the thing at the time was, don't go out there and self-aggrandize. Don't think you're so important that you have to barnstorm across America. My favorite story, John, had to do with on this one particular day. Many said it was the most memorable moment of the campaign when a choir from an all-black university in Nashville traveled all the way up to Ohio to perform for him. It was said that more than a few tears were shed as they sang their heartfelt spiritual songs. And at the end, Garfield stood up to address them and said simply, "In this campaign, I would rather be with you and defeated than to be against you and victorious." And so that's the kind of man he was.
Yeah. How times have changed, haven't they?
Yeah.
Campaigns have changed.
Yes,
so
they
much,
definitely have. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
So,
Anyway, so he wins.
So he wins.
Yep.
I mean, really not in office long enough to really make major policy shifts or changes. I mean, 200 days is nothing, right? I mean,
right.
But I know he was very much against the spoils system.
Yes.
That pervaded the country at the time, and that was part of his headbutting with Roscoe Conkling is the stalwarts, which were a division of the Republicans. They were all about the spoils, the patronage. They were against reconciliation, really, with the South. Yeah. Whereas Garfield was part of the half-breeds, they called them, but he was a staunch abolitionist. I mean, beyond Abraham Lincoln.
Sure.
I mean, he really pushed for equal rights and the restoration and reconciliation of the South.
Well, here's a man, for example, who on up to that very moment, the most important day of his life, his presidential inauguration, when he walked out of the Capitol to give his inauguration speech, he had 2 people with him, Frederick Douglass and his mom.
Yeah.
I think that tells you a lot about the man, right?
Pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. He wanted to ensure equal rights for every American. At the same time, he loved his mom so much. He's like, "Mom, you come with me. Let's go get this done."
Ironically, I'm glad you brought that up because Frederick Douglass was actually present at the trial for his assassin.
Oh,
believe it or not.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
and we're going to talk about that trial in a minute.
Yep.
But this Charles Guiteau.
Yep.
So he convinced himself, I mean, he was totally deranged, obviously, but he convinced himself that he was highly qualified for a government job, but he was just weird enough in how and creepy enough in how he approached Garfield that I think at some point, and others in the new administration, I think everybody's like, this guy needs to get away from us.
Yeah, this is when the White House was open. People would come in and they would request meetings with people in the White House with the president.
Right.
Guiteau actually met the president. He met Garfield, and he believed that he helped Garfield get elected. He believed that ultimately he believed he was on a mission from God to assassinate Garfield, that it needed to be done. I mean, that was, you're right, a deranged lunatic, really. And a grifter, you know, he traveled around, he didn't pay his bills, he was just
constantly,
really just an unsavory character.
So there were actually a number of times when he finally got to and it was really primarily, John, I think, that it was when he finally came to the realization that he was not going to get any kind of a job in this government, that all of a sudden then the idea came into his head that Garfield, who he had campaigned for, was the problem, not the opportunity. Yeah. And so he had said, you know, he left behind a lot of writings, but he said that there were other times where he did think about shooting him, had his gun with him, but couldn't pull the trigger. He was going to shoot him at a church service, but decided not to. Yeah. He read that Garfield was going to be out at the train station,
going on vacation to New England.
Yeah, but even before that, he was going to take his wife Lucretia, who had been very sick for weeks. The thinking back in those days when medicine wasn't anywhere near to the level it is now, get you out to the sea and breathe in some sea air. And so he went to the train station. He thought he would do the horrible deed there, but when he saw how frail Mrs. Garfield was in her illness, he couldn't pull the trigger. But he didn't give up the idea.
No. And then eventually, July 2nd, 1881, he, again, it's in a train station. He shoots Garfield in the back. And interestingly enough, it was not a fatal wound. It should not have killed Garfield. In modern medicine today, he would have probably survived. He would have had a very high rate of survival.
The story told that one of the doctors who just happened to be there literally took his finger and inserted it into the wound.
That's right.
No doubt creating more issues for contamination.
That's right. Yeah. It's you know, Dr. Townsend, who was one of the first to arrive there,
to be there on scene,
did something that Joseph Lister, who was a surgeon that was promoting antiseptic, that American surgeons were rejecting, American doctors rejected. Invisible germs. They didn't believe in them.
Lister was right.
Yeah.
But so we weren't quite caught up to his thinking.
As the president lay on the train station floor, one of the most germ-infested environments imaginable, Townsend inserted an unsterilized finger into the wound into his back, causing a small hemorrhaging, almost certainly inducing infection that was far more lethal than Guiteau's bullet. Yeah. And later on, and I'm quoting from a book called Destiny of the Republic. I want to highly recommend it to everybody. Candace Millard wrote a great book on this whole thing. But she writes that even if Garfield had simply been left alone, he almost certainly would have survived. Lodged as it was in fatty tissue below and behind his pancreas, the bullet itself was no continuing danger to the president.
One of my favorite stories here, John, in his last days of life is they took him out to the sea. Again, he wanted to breathe that sea air. I think he still thought he could fight it and come back from it. But there was a person who made their home available out there on the sea, and the townspeople in this little town of Elberton, New Jersey, realized the train tracks didn't go far enough. Yeah. The night before he arrived, thousands of them, a couple of thousand, worked to lay train tracks another 3,000 feet to get him to the house where everybody hoped he was going to recuperate.
Yeah.
How about that?
And obviously he succumbs about 79 days afterwards, after being shot. He died September 19th, 1881, 49 years old. Yeah. Guiteau is captured. He's tried. And we were talking during the break about what a spectacle that his trial and execution was. 20,000 people requested tickets to his execution. He was ultimately hanged. His trial was, people were lining up to just see this trial. It was a total spectacle. He was outbursts in the courtroom. I mean, just a total, it's just craziness. And I think it's, Garfield ends up really dying from extreme sepsis, and abscesses just riddled his body. And we were behind the time a little bit on medical knowledge, and today that would have been probably a different outcome. But as we wrap up, final thoughts.
I hope that we have been able to convince you of my opinion, which is I really think he could have, when you just learn about his life, that I think he really could have been one of our all-time great presidents. This is a man who didn't want it. You know what he wanted to do? He wanted to be a farmer.
He did.
Raise his kids on a farm in Ohio and maybe serve his country in some other capacity.
Yeah, or as one of our great authors, Hampton Side, says, it was a madman who snuffed out greatness in its prime. Yeah. So there was, I believe that.
Story of James A. Garfield, and another great American story. Thanks for watching today.